All right, check me out, check me out, check me out, check me out. Y'all can see me? Let's make sure you get all the angles right here. Y'all can see it? Y'all can see it? Y'all can see it? All right. All right, yo. We're back into this. Welcome back to another episode of Dream Chasers Insanity. It is your dropout professor, the exclusive, the only one, the Dark Wizard, here to give you another episode of goodness, another bit of wisdom to incorporate on your journey, whatever you're becoming. Hopefully, it's just taking more steps into growing into alignment with who you really are, your true self. Allowing yourself an opportunity to accept that at first and then to actualize that into a world where it can finally be appreciated and integrated to this collective consciousness. That's what my soul's been calling on, and that's something I believe I want to share with my people. So hopefully, there's something that you get out of this video today that applies to the journey that you're on. Let me figure out how I'm going to start this video while you check out the board. I think this is going to be a pretty good video. A lot of at least on the TikTok, a lot of the videos that I've been making that have been catching traction have been the ones that are focused more on bringing the validation and acceptance back to self. I understand there's so much like polarizing content that goes around, whether it's like life coaches or relationship coaches, just people who want to call themselves experts in fields that have to do with spirituality or lifestyle. Yet it seems more so they're creating a community just to validate a bunch of trauma survivors who still have identities rooted in that trauma, rather than create pathways for people to utilize that trauma and those experiences to become somebody they can fully accept and appreciate in their own lives. So we aren't just stuck to, enslaved to an identity of what happened to us, but we are everything that we could be, or at least on the path to pursuing everything that we could be in this life. And I speak about this in so many episodes, especially the most recent episodes that I've been working on, the whiteboard ones, just about not prioritizing the validation of the outside world above yourself. Learning to finally give yourself that inner voice, the one that wakes up first in your head, giving validation to that, giving significance to that, at least just as much significance as you give to the voices and the people that have value in your external reality. As you grow on this journey, you're going to learn that it's not only your mindset you have to change. It quite literally might have to be your whole entire identity that has to change. But it's not the reason why I say this is one of the more positive changes that you can make to your identity is because this is not taking you away from the hamster wheel that is constantly wearing new masks and attempting to see what validation I get from that. And it's deciding to go on the very, very, very lonely journey at the start that is accepting myself. And in doing so, I allow that version of myself to be in the world, whether or not anybody will accept it. And then for the people who do accept and appreciate that, I show love and I share love with them. I continue to cultivate the energy of self-acceptance with them and reciprocate all the abundance that comes as a consequence of my ability to accept myself. Let's just read the title here before we get into the promo and then we get started on this video. Know your worth. Compensation over validation. Actually, I didn't even finish the title here. Stop sacrificing respect for the hope of love and acceptance. I could have added another part that says, you're seeking for what you will only find in yourself through other people. And you're hoping that the status, the identity, the connections, the attachments to those identities that you're hoping will validate you will be enough to compensate for the depth that you will not validate yourself. Whether it's a consequence of trauma, it's a consequence of your experiences, your upbringing, whether it's a consequence of your reinforcements in your immediate environment. But if you're on this page and you're pursuing a journey like the one I'm describing and I've been describing in these videos, This is not just a journey where we're focused on the destination. We're focused on the success that can come from it. We have to put ourselves in the driver's seat of all the steps, all the twists and turns and roads that it takes to even get there, to even becoming the person that can even see opportunities like that before even getting the opportunity to actualize them into our lives. I'll forever talk about this, but the entrepreneurial journey is a very, very, very spiritual journey because it forces us to not only know who we are, but to change who we are if we desire to receive the blessings or the consequences of the journey that we're pursuing. It forces us to accept ourselves in ways that other people, that non-entrepreneurs, that traditional life path people don't have to accept themselves in, because the validation they're seeking in the world is enough to compensate for the ways they don't validate themselves. But we don't do that here. That's why there's a lot of things when you can't just, oh, I give you this information and you apply it to your mind and then now you're just a better person or now your life's going to change. You have to integrate it to allow it to change your being and change the way that you make decisions, change the way that you perceive the world, change the way that you engage with your reality. And in doing so, that will lead to the changes that you're hoping to see. And the best part about that is that even though it takes longer and it takes more intention and more commitment, those are real, lasting changes that you can appreciate, you can take responsibility for in your life, and nobody can take away from you after you've started to do that. So, final glance at this board before I keep on just yapping your ears off and not getting the intro in. But I'm not going to do too much yab about the self-promo necessarily too much, because I don't want you to feel like I'm making all of this content or I'm doing all of this specifically for the intention of selling to you guys, just selling products and making money. I want you to know that's a consequence of me being able to provide you genuine value through the lessons that I teach every week. So I'll do a little short one here, and then we'll also put the links in the descriptions at the end of the video. But if you'd like to support the channel, go ahead, like, comment, subscribe. It's the free way to do it. You'll help us clock our way through the algorithm. And if you'd like to support any more than that, we have a Patreon link. You can jump and donate directly to there, or you can buy some clothes from our clothing brand, and I'll showcase a couple of them up on the screen right now. So maybe your mouth can start watering and you can start typing in the website and get you some. How does that sound? Till then, let's get started with this video. I think we got a lot of good stuff to talk about today. Okay. It's very important that we start this video with, hold on one second. All right, did the light get better? Oh, okay. So we'll start this video, phase one, by getting into not all money is good money. But I can't expect you to know that if you haven't come from a lifestyle or an environment or a community, circumstances externally that have shown you the value of the self outside of a system where most people, if not all people, wake up rejecting themselves and then putting themselves, their lives on the line as a means of being compensated with this monetary stuff that is value that is used to then meet the needs of that person who woke up rejecting themselves. So it is very weird when you're living life on the other side of deliberately, like consciously choosing self-acceptance. Because in this world, it's convenient, very convenient to choose self-rejection and to just place the responsibility of meeting your needs or of granting your own salvation onto somebody else. Many people place their salvation on a blonde dude from Africa. Let's not get into that right now. But and again, the reason why in that intro part of this video, I was saying it's so important to not only know your worth, but to have that foundation is because from that, especially in this world that we live in, you get to see when other people are preying on your lack of support, lack of opportunity, lack of ability to take care of yourself, or they're actually genuinely offering you opportunities to better your circumstances and your situation. But if you innately don't know your worth or you don't value yourself, you are at the mercy of whoever's providing you the opportunity or providing you the salvation. That's why I'm asking this, especially those of us who are creative artists, those of us who are non-traditional life path people. We're moving into a world where I'm not going to say that AI is going to steal everybody's jobs, but we're moving into a world where the people who've been rejected and marginalized and repressed and just like pushed off to the side for not conforming to this slave model society that we have, we are going to be the ones finally, I'm assuming, who have the spotlight. Our experiences, our ability to adapt, our ability to pivot into living creatively, living differently, living non-traditionally, and finding value within that process beyond rejection and repression. That's where we are somehow, it's like, I don't read the Bible necessarily, but there's a story in there that says like the meek will inherit the world. And I genuinely believe that it's only a matter of time. And if I can add a side note, capitalism is a lot more existential than you believe, because capitalism and these like physical monetary systems are actually karma blockers. And I'll get into that in another video because that kind of takes us off the point we're going to right now. But if you genuinely think about it, you can create value, or you can take all the value out of natural society and tie it to this monetary paper, this physical monetary value. And then you can hoard as much of it as possible by exploiting other people for access to theirs. So you can use their karma blocker to block any karma that you can face as a very wealthy person who has access to a lot of capital, and then leave those other people to the mercy of not only their karma that they can't protect themselves from with the value you've exploited from them, but also they're going to be at the collateral damage of the karma that you use the money, the karma blocker, to prevent yourself from feeling as a wealthy person. So poor people are getting doubled down on by a free market. See, this is why like I'm getting off the point here. I need to make sure we're going back to this, making sure that you know your worth. But I'm sure this all applies. I'm sure this all applies. I'm kind of just freestyling right now, but I'm sure this all applies to what I'm saying here. What I'm trying to get at before I'm just going and speaking about anything is you as an individual person. It is your responsibility in this very individualistic world we live in to understand your own self-worth. The video that came out maybe 1, 2, or 3 videos before this. No, the last whiteboard lecture that I made is the Discernment video. And I'm speaking to you directly about what if you are cultivating your inner flame and you're cultivating and knowing of the value that exists within you, then you'll be able to discern. You have set an internal standard that will be able to give you the ability to see when other people are disrespecting that standard and when other people seek to engage with you to appreciate that standard that you're already cultivating on your own. But if you're not doing that and you live in a society that is rooted on not just poor people, but anybody who doesn't have access to see or know the truth, is at the mercy of self-rejection, immediate self-rejection, and external codependency to external validation seeking, then nobody is reinforcing around anybody anything other than who can be validated the best, or whose validation can carry the most value, because nobody in this group of competing people will validate themselves because they don't believe that is worth any value. And that's where the crabs in the bucket mentality, maybe I didn't write it there, but a little side note, that's where the crabs in the bucket mentality comes from. because, and I'll get into that further a little bit later into this video, but it is exacerbated by a collective of people who not only can't validate themselves, but they all believe that they are competing against one another for the validation of a singular master who owns them all, or at least owns them by proxy or by way of owning access to their salvation that they can't give themselves. So those in the community who can't give themselves salvation, who can't defend, can't stand up for, can't protect themselves in any kind of way, need to start tearing internally from other people in the group to start supporting themselves while they wait for the hope of being saved by or being picked to be taught by the master. I'm asking you not to continue to perpetuate this system of masters and slaves and say, you know what, if my reality is reinforcing I'm a slave, I'm going to look at myself like a master. I understand that is what is the immediate thing to do, or what seems like the immediate thing to do, but truly the truth is in being able to look at yourself as a human being who deserves to be internally balanced, deserves to have your needs met internally, so you can be the fullness of who that is, complete internally to the external world. Share yourself for who you are. And I feel bad. I genuinely do feel bad because this, it is generationally embedded in some people to be slaves. And I'm not just speaking about like slaves and whips and chains. I'm speaking about to be codependent to society, to be self-reject, like deeply self-rejecting of themselves, especially Black people in a white man's America. And that's something that a lot of people don't want to address. But let me give you my little side note that I wrote here, which perfectly explains that. Something that marginalized people everywhere, but especially Black people, because somehow the whole entire world hates us for some reason, is we have to wake up every single day asking ourselves, is self-rejection truly worth societal acceptance, even if we are living in a sociopathic society that doesn't give empathy on a fundamental level to my humanity? But I'm still rejecting myself in order to be accepted by this society, but not accepted by my humanity, accepted based on how I can serve it. And what am I perceived as by this society as a Black person? A slave. And even if that isn't the case right now, tell me what kind of country we're walking ourselves into. It's October 31st, 2024. Give me an answer to that in 5 years. But we also can, and this can be used to explain that like coon mentality that Uncle Tom, and not even necessarily Uncle Tom, because that's a whole other analysis that needs to go down, but the house Negro awareness or perspective, identity, forgive me. That's the one that's willing to reject the self in order to be accepted by society. Or the Uncle Ruckus mentality if you guys watch Boondocks at all. And it's hard to blame them because they and we know inherently what? If you aren't a master in this master-slave system, you are going to have to reject yourself to serve the master in hopes that the master will give you salvation on the back end of your service. And what is convenient, what is closest to the person who has to make that decision is, you know what, even if I don't get freedom, if I don't get salvation, if I don't get access to what I genuinely want, at least I won't be punished by the master for disobeying the rules, for disobeying the status quo. Unlike the person who says, I'm willing to be rejected by society just to accept myself, just to know myself for who I am. And when I know myself for who I am, then society can't tell me who I am not. And in a master-slave system, that is something that cannot be spread by the people on the ground. Once you stop rejecting the self and then running into the world seeking your whole life for it and not completing it, you go into yourself and start to realize this is where everything was that I was hiding from, that I was missing, that I wish I had, that I wanted to be. And I have to make peace with all of this before I seek anything into the world. Because anything I seek in the world before I seek myself is going to be a reflection of how little I know myself and how little I respect who I am. Or simply how much I'm rejecting my own responsibility to care for myself and projecting that onto other people or other experiences so I can keep feeling good about the convenience that I have assumed in my life. And this applies more to, I know I'm speaking a lot heavy black, but it's like, this applies to a lot more than black people, and I'm definitely going to get into this. This applies to black people, this applies to women, this applies to freaking social media. And I have, the reason why I explain a whole bunch of, or a variety of analogies or applications of this type of philosophy is because I want you to know that we all may be very, very different people and live different lives, but our struggle is what pulls us together. And unless we're willing to look at our struggle from a position of actually wanting to liberate ourselves from it and not just identify with being somebody who struggles, then we're going to continue to tear each other apart for absolutely no reason, acting like one person's an alien and one person's a this and one person's a fish and one person's a tree, when we're all human beings struggling to be fundamentally. So let's get into this next part. I think we did enough explaining of not all money is good money. Fuck, nigga. And actually, you know what? Before we even conclude this part right here, I might as well just get into it's. I don't know if I can call you guys like the poorest, but it's just like if you're not a millionaire, you're damn near one of us. Like you're the poorest, man. If you're not a millionaire, you're a poorest. And my project or my intention for the poors is that we decide, we truly take that time, whether it's when we get unemployed, when we lose our jobs, if we lose a relationship, if we lose our housing, when we lose the things that we've been clinging onto to validate our identity. Once we're done with that and we finally are just exposed and naked as to who we truly are, what are we willing to cultivate within ourselves? What kind of value are we willing to mine and dig and seek within ourselves? Not only to be our own source of salvation, but to also provide value to the world around us that has given us an opportunity to continue to be outside of what we were expected to be. Or forgive me, continue to become and to grow outside of who we were expected to be. All right, I think it's time to get into that next part. Okay, this is a good time. This is a good time to get into a progression of applications of this validation for compensation theory that I've been crafting up here. Your favorite philosopher has been crafting up. And I'm going to give you a handful of different experiences, 3. So a dinosaur handful of different experiences that relate to this specifically. And if you identify with somebody who has been impacted by or lives within one of these groups, I would implore you to seek your identity, your uniqueness, and your independence outside of the identity that this system is willing to give you. Because you are probably being undervalued for the complexity of your humanity, just as a means to sedate you beneath said identity so you don't hold the system and the powers that regulate it up to an actual standard of providing for complex human beings and human beings who should be respected and cared for in their diversity and in our humanity. That's why it's like we're living in a world that's trying to just so hard, especially in America, is trying so hard to just go into just like the master-slave society by dehumanizing all these people and saying, see, look at those scary animals. You need Batman. And then we just invest trillions into our defense. It's all for the sake of getting as few people as possible to have as much power as possible and to listen to or adhere to the service of as few people as possible as well. When this might be a personal opinion, but the whole entire point of being in a position of power or being powerful is to prioritize the problems of the people, because that's your responsibility, not serving yourself or your own fucking demons. Maybe I'm crazy for that though. That's why I don't have a freaking government position. That's why I don't have an executive role, because I assume that powerful people use power to care for the powerless or to protect them in the least until they can find power for themselves. But we don't do that here. We take power from the powerless and then we have award ceremonies to say that we are powerful and cooler than you because we just stole candy from a baby and gave the homie an award for doing so. Like, it's just such a weird world, and it's crazy because it's like when you get to this awareness, you sit here and think like this has to be just like sick and twisted like 30-year-olds or just like 15-year-old children thinking of this stuff. It's 65-year-old oldies, bro, who can't even walk a mile in these Louboutins, bro, saying this type of stuff, bro. Doing this kind of oppressive, old school, like, wish it was back in the 50s type like stuff. Destroying our whole entire reality. So if you consider yourself to be an intellectual person and you're a young person, I'm telling you right now, bro, you might be a leader of the new world, bro, real soon. But just the rant's making me mad, so let's just get into the clip. We had conscious leaders. We didn't need Diddy. We didn't need Jay-Z. We didn't need any of these rappers or any of the hooligans, bro, to be leading us in our social culture. Yes, they could have been leading us in our entertainment culture. Yes, they could have been leading us in our creative culture, but we didn't need manufactured entertainers to be leading the conscious development of our communities. Today, we've seen the consequences of that. Huh? Look how many Ricos have just gone out in the past 18 months for careers that have spanned, for many of these people, 10, 15, 20 years. Imagine doing all of that work, bro, for somebody to come around and sideswipe everything and then throw you in a fucking lockbox, bro, until you die. 3 examples of how the powers that be have convinced us as regular people to take validation in exchange for or as a means of being more important than actually being compensated properly. Because when we're compensated properly, whether it's in the means of reparations, it's in the means of freedom, or it is power, then we are in control of what we do with that. We can decide, hey, I want to invest in my community. I want to invest in my personal growth. I want to treat my spouse in my relationship. I want to take the kids on vacation. I want to invest in this business. I want to donate to this shelter. We, the people who live real life, who live in real human experiences, and who understand real human struggle every single day, get to decide what we do with our value. And we get to appreciate society directly as a means of the value we create and the value that we reinvest. Imagine how much power everyday people have if they knew that they could do that. They could impact their world and their reality like that. Imagine how much more in tune, integrated, aware they would be of their reality if that is the power that everyday people held. But then you can't control that. You can't regulate that. You can't exploit that. You can't just funnel money. You can't just print money out of communities, bro, doing something like that. You actually have to respect and appreciate the place that you're cultivating this business at. You're cultivating this culture at. How crazy? How crazy is that? Let's get into it now. No, actually, we were already been getting into it. I just went on a sidetrack. I apologize for that. But we already had conscious leaders, bro, that were going to make real change conscious leaders that were not only demanding for representation and reparations, but conscious leaders that were demanding that we get ours. The people who were working, breaking their backs for free in this country, get ours from this country. And the second we start speaking like that, getting ours from this country that stole everything from us, and then reinvesting in our community that built everything for this country, what did they do? Oh my goodness, people are accidentally taking your leaders out. Oh my goodness, what's happening? Oh my goodness, all of your leaders are... Oh wait, the FBI is behind this? Oh wait, the federal government is behind this? Oh wait, the federal government just called the Black Panthers a terrorist organization? Federal? And what did we get in return for them stealing all of our leaders? What did we get in return for them destroying our communities? What did we get in return for them corrupting our culture? Here's a holiday. Now shut up for the rest of the year. I still don't see any reparations. I still don't see any changes. I still don't see any compensation. And if you're dumb enough to bring up that $1,200 stimulus check that Trump gave you, bro, go ahead and delete my whole entire page, bro, from your psyche. You don't belong here. That, like, this is the type of stuff that makes me just like so mad, bro, because it's like we had our own communities, we had our own leaders, we had our own culture, we had everything within our community. But because of, specifically here, white supremacist culture, but master slave culture, we thought that that value as Black people within us meant nothing until we got it validated by the same people who thought that we were monkeys. What value is the validation of somebody that cannot even fundamentally accept, much less acknowledge our humanity? It doesn't matter at all. I answered it for you. The next one. Society, and I'll strictly speak on patriarchy and the religion that was inspired by patriarchy, has stolen the divine feminine, worship of the divine feminine, and access to autonomous women's community and cultural development. For the sake of what? Population growth. Because we're going to go extinct if we don't grow the population. It's not like they haven't been saying that for the past however many freaking years we've been existing here. But you know it's political, right? You know it has nothing to do with the actual population, because we would be caring for the people that actually have kids today. We'd be caring for the kids that don't have parents today. We'd be caring for the communities that can't raise children today. We wouldn't be focused on how many kids we can pump out in the next 10, 20, 30, 50 years. Because if we don't figure shit out now, yesterday, to be honest, we won't be here for another 5. But these people don't think. So then you have to have people like me get up on here, bro, sacrifice my whole reputation to teach you guys some shit. But again, I'm getting lost from the point, and I want to make sure that I drag myself back to reality every time I do that. Not only would this have been, personal opinion from me, Dark Wizard, I want to do a bunch in investing in, like, I'm talking women's exclusive communities, because there is, in my brain, the ancestors speak to me all the time, and they're telling me that this is intentionally blocked, because there's actual magic that forms here in these communities. And I'm telling you, it's like we as men can protect these communities from the outside of them, like not needing to be in them or to exploit them or to have access to them, simply because what is being created in here. It's like literally like growing babies. But it's not physical babies. It's the energy. It is being able to take intention on conscious thought and to cultivate that and to share that through conversation, share that through collaboration, share that through creativity and expression, and to do that in a place where you are not only safe and able to accept yourself, but you're fully in tune with self-expression and letting out who you are from your deep acceptance and connection to self. And that's not something that our society, especially underneath the standards of patriarchy, allows for any woman to do. But How will this society, again, a sociopathic society, compensate the women who don't have access to build that culture, to develop in those communities, to stand up for and know that they're going to be protected in being themselves, even in dire circumstances? We make them compete against each other to be picked by men of which, most of which who aren't ready, aren't even grown, aren't taking care of themselves, and have no ability to or desire to take care of another human being, much less a woman. So make them fight each other for the validation of men who will force them to not only carry on their legacies, but to raise their families, to develop their whole household in the back ends, and then also to suppress all of their truth as a means of giving the man the greatest opportunity to be everything he can be. Can you origami? No, I'm playing. I'm sorry. And even when you do get chosen, going back to speaking about how marriage is a direct, or at least this one in the West that we have is a direct destruction of like community development. Even when you do get chosen in these relationships and you do have the family and you're all successful and you're where you need to be at, you are still competing with other family systems. Whether it's who has the best family, who has the most successful husband, who has the best and the highest potential kids, who has the wife who stayed looking like she didn't have kids after she had kids, but she still had kids, so we can't appreciate I got cash out. And it's just so much like needing to just distort your whole self to engage in a social culture that is already so broken and full of people who hate themselves anyway and only seek to reinforce that. They don't care about accepting themselves. They don't care about loving themselves. They don't care about being real. They just want to be validated, even if it means fully throwing themselves out the fucking picture. That's where you guys start being. That's where you guys start having that discernment, that D word, and just knowing. But I don't want to get too lost before we just explain how that is validation over compensation. The reason why I say that this specifically, the women's communities, or at least the conscious community to the cult of identity nuclear family pipeline, is related to this validation for compensation, is because you're telling women, hey, the value that you can provide from being able to be not only in full alignment with who you are, but in communities of other women who love and support and care for you. I'm talking beyond sororities. I'm talking about all types of communities, even like matriarchal setup communities. Give me like 2 seconds. I'm starting to lose myself here. All right, we got it. And this is the compensation. Mind you, it doesn't seem like compensation because it doesn't seem like, hey, you know what? I'm paying you money to develop yourself or whatever. But in this circumstance, I'm saying the value is created from being able to have access to and awareness of these things. And in doing so, you compensate yourself because you realize that you're not selling yourself off because you don't know yourself to a society that knows you don't know yourself and seeks to exploit you for everything that you can truly give it, most of which you probably don't even know you have the potential to give it. But if you know yourself, then you're not even coming up to a society where it's a zero-sum game and you lose every time. You're looking at a circumstance and saying, no, I have a community of people who loves and supports me, so I'm not lonely and seeking relationship. I have an ability to pursue a career. I have an ability to educate myself. I have the ability to pay my own bills and to make my way through this life. So I'm not seeking codependency or financial codependence and trauma onto anyone. I'm not seeking to be bought on a romantic market like other people are. And when you feel that deep sense of self-acceptance in your complex being, not just in an identity that you carry, then it's about who can complement the growth process that you're going on. It's not about who can own you for whatever identity you are and keep you locked in that as long as possible because you don't know how to validate yourself for your humanity. You only know how to be validated in an identity. What? Let's make sure this is still recording. Yeah, it's fucking cheese. All right. The final one, this is gonna apply to all of us. But those first two I had to explain just because those are more long, like it's these issues, whether it's like race of white supremacy or it's patriarchy, they've been going on for so long. It's so many scale models I could give you to explain that. And mind you, especially for this women's one, there is every single woman could probably give you a better explanation of this than I'm giving you. But this is just what I'm learning from my research. And I, in my life, still have to connect with these women who are already having this conversation so I can make sure that I'm platforming them so you can hear this thing that I'm describing. Because this is the amount of potential that this can create, not just for women or for Black women or for the world. I'm saying for everything in existence. Mind you, I might be a little biased because I do believe that God, the real God of the universe, is a Black woman. So that might be where I'm biased. And you don't have to believe that if you don't want to. It's okay. You might not be, a child of that one, but it's okay. I'm excited to see what happens when we not only start to address real Black history, but we start to address how limited we are, not even allowing, how limited we are forcing women to be underneath these systems of patriarchy and hyper masculinity. Now, the final point, again, before I get lost as I'm freaking roller coastering all around this place, but I just want to talk about social media, these platforms that we're on, that I've been engaging with you guys on. And the truth of the matter is, as much as I appreciate them, as much as I appreciate the opportunity that I've had to share myself and share my ideas and these concepts and have these conversations with y'all, for the majority of people, we are victims on these platforms. I'm gonna be dead honest with you. We are victims on these platforms. And to connect to one of the audiences that I love speaking to, the one that I really want to make sure that I'm hitting the nose on, creative artists, if you don't understand the value that you provide, not only through your content or through your brand, to these tech companies, to our society as a whole, if you don't understand that, you are going to be horribly, horribly undervalued. Horribly undervalued. And compensated in substitute forms of wealth, even though what the other people who you are giving your wealth to, they're making bags and bags and bags. But they know that you don't know the value of your wealth. You don't know the value that you bring to the table. So as long as you don't know it, you'll never demand for it. You'll never question if that's what's really being made. You know what you're going to do? You're going to take their participation trophy. You're going to take we're going out to the club with celebrities. Oh, I'm going out and I'm meeting so-and-so. Oh, I get to go hang out with this group. I get to put my name on a piece of paper and hang it up in my office. You see what I'm saying? But you're still broke. And I hate to even say it like that. But if you genuinely believe, and again, this is a very nuanced perspective, but if you genuinely believe that you're providing value, you wake up every day in your 24-hour cycles and you provide value to the people that you engage with, to the environment that you engage with in your life, why are you not being compensated enough to know that you deserve to live every day? Huh? Why are we not focused on making sure that we are properly compensated before we fall victim to this illusion of validation that is constantly thrown at us to get us to stop demanding proper compensation? Most of your favorite artists who've won Grammys, who've won Emmys, people who have won crazy, ridiculous national or international awards for doing things that you could only dream of getting on a podium and doing are broke. And this is not a means to shame people who don't have no money. This is a means to say, you're providing all this value, which generates all this wealth, and you're not getting none of that lick? What? It's like something has to be wrong here. Because if you were not in this equation, nobody would be making any value. If you weren't in this relationship, that other person would not be happy. If you were not in this environment, then the rest of the people wouldn't be having smiles on their faces. But you don't want to accept it. Starts within you. And that's the biggest problem, bro. And even when the world is reinforcing like, hey, this is you, this is what you're doing, this is the value you're providing, learn to accept and love that and take responsibility for that. Oh, it can't be me. I'm not that cool. I'm not that good. I'm not that. So you're going to project that, even your own goodness and your own blessings, onto the external world as well. Because fundamentally, it all comes from the inability to validate yourself. And that's like step 4, 5, or 6 on the process of just being able to acknowledge your truth and accept yourself for who you are. I didn't even get to describing the words that I was using to speak about the application through the social media lens. But social media, these tech bros, the Zuckerbergs and the freaking Jack Dorseys and the whatnot, I'm going to give it up to them, man. Modern day robber barons. I'm good as calling, what's his name? Zuckerberg is damn near Rockefeller to me. But that's just from a history geek. I don't know if you guys care about any of that. The only Rockefeller you guys know is Jay-Z and Dame Dash. But the tech bros of this generation looked and knew that nobody would genuinely care about their platforms and the tools that they've been creating to siphon the wealth and make themselves billionaires, and then also to validate their ridiculously high valuation periods before they ended up starting actually making money. These companies had to convince creative artists, convince ambitious people, convince business people, hey, give us the value that you're producing, because if you gave us that, we would help you produce value on a better rate, a more efficient rate. But we're not going to compensate you or even tell you, to be genuinely honest, how much value you're providing for us. And on top of that, we're not going to tell you that if you left this platform, if you left our tools and stopped using them, then 75%, if not all of our audience would be gone as well. So what are we going to do to keep you enslaved to our platforms as a creative artist, as a value producer, so you forget that you're the one who's producing the value, and in knowing that, you would be able to get up and leave off this platform because you know that you're the one who provides the value. So it's not a matter of if you can provide value somewhere else, it's a matter of how long it's going to take for you to be able to figure out how you can apply your value to a new platform in a way that can be received by the people and the ecosystem of that platform, or of that community, or of that relationship, or of that environment. Like, don't get lost here when I say that. When you understand the value that you produce, it's only a matter of being acknowledged for that value, and then having the discernment to know that you're being compensated properly. Because the only way you can continue to, on a healthy trajectory, continue to produce value is if you're being compensated properly for the value that you are actively producing there. And if you don't have an external environment to reinforce your internal standard of doing that, you're good as a cash cow, my friend. You're good as a cash cow. And once there's no more cash in you, they're going to make burgers and patties out of you. And I don't blame any of us because we're all young, but it's like, They really have us thinking that likes and views and clicks on made up digital platforms is more important than being able to pay our bills every month, is more important than being properly compensated for creating the value that goes on these platforms. And also, this is actually the perfect thing to end on. This is what I was trying to start this whole entire thing with. When we as creative artists aren't willing to validate ourselves first and then share from a place of self-acceptance the value with the external world and then create some kind of system where we can be compensated, we go from, like we have in the past 5 to 10 years, from creative artists who create art and get compensated for it to content creators who are now forced to market our own art, forced to engage with our own communities, forced to damn near be our own machines, and then for doing that, not get compensated. But then on top of not getting compensated, now we're competing with other people in a broken algorithm for what? For acceptance, for validation, as if what we're doing is just as worthy or not better than properly being compensated. And the crazy thing is that if more people were properly compensated for the value that they were providing, they wouldn't have nothing to say. There wouldn't be anything to say. Genuinely, there would be nothing to say because it's like, I can meet my needs, so I don't need to tear from the people around me, bro, to make me feel good about not doing that. Damn, life is good. Let me keep moving on with my business. But again, maybe that's too forward thinking. Maybe I'm freaking Tupac of this generation. Maybe. All right. I already explained this final part of this video, but I gotta make sure this is still recording. I already explained that little bottom part in purple, but we'll get into it. Oh, damn. I hope I caught myself. I really hope I caught myself. I might have cut my whole self off when I'm explaining this. Whatever. You guys let me. The conclusion of this video is, or I probably shouldn't have started it that way. A good way to look at this as how are these systems, if they're happening so apparently, so simultaneously, how are they allowed to just perpetuate themselves? Or how are they allowed, if people can see them and see the value that is being exploited, how can people not just say, you know what, we're done with this. Like, why do we keep doing this? I'll give you a reason right here. The system is perpetuated by value producers. I'll give you a couple examples here. Essential workers, creative artists, sex workers, people who provide value from what they do or who they are. Value producers being codependent to opportunity providers, in this case the capitalist who hoards the money and then also gatekeeps the opportunity for self-salvation and fulfillment of community service. And then in I don't know what those awkward shaped parentheses are, but down there I wrote participation trophies over slave reparations. I think that sums it up perfectly. First, I'll get into the end part first, and then I'll describe what I mean at the top. But when I say the end part first, I say for self-salvation and fulfillment of community service. Because when we, especially as creative artists, aren't able to be in a position, or even healers too, when we aren't in a position to take care of our own needs, then our whole entire identity becomes not meeting our needs, not having our needs met, or attempting to save other people who can't meet their needs in that same way so we can feel good about not meeting ours. And this is all apart from just having our needs met. So that's why we're living in a society where people have gained actual validation for being or for lacking something or for not being where they want to be. And they've grown comfortable in just being identified as that rather than saying, oh, this is a label that's being put on me until I can transition myself into new circumstance because I don't want to identify with this. This is just a phase in my life. Most people don't live like that. Most people sit there and get comfortable being this, being that, being this, I don't know, whatever you want to call it, And then 35 years go by and they wonder, how come nobody told me? Nigga, nah, I'm playing. But beyond, once we've established that self-salvation is necessary, like that's not just something that it comes behind a paywall. That is a fundamental aspect of where we're trying to go here. Beyond that, what will we do with our ability to save ourselves from our circumstances or the ability to grant other people salvation? And fundamentally, instead of owning people, it's just about community service. How can we give back to or invest within the community that allowed us an opportunity to care for ourselves? Know what I mean? And even if that, how can we take care of ourselves so much so to align with the community that allows us to recognize and appreciate the value that we can create for ourselves, and then because of having that abundance, we can continue to share with the community and expand and grow beyond who we are. But again, we live in a world where many people don't have community, and if they do have community, the community doesn't support them, so they don't value the community or don't desire to sacrifice themselves for it. And most people don't even have a solid perception of self. Like their whole identity is rooted in needing to reject the self or to remove responsibility from the self, so they can just exist in this limbo where they don't have to take accountability for anything, but they can also complain that their life is so hard and they're not going to take responsibility for anything that will actually change it. And this is funny because this applies to the true final part of this is this applies to the AI is going to save the creative arts industry. Because if you think about it, the value producers are the human beings, the real human creative artists, the visionaries, the pioneers. And usually the gatekeepers or the capitalists are just holding back the tools and the skilled workers that would allow those creatives to develop that relationship with their community. And from that, create culture and create compensation value. But the capitalist says, hey, let's go own all the tools. Let's make sure that all the artists are in debt. And let's make sure that the community can't access this legally through anybody but us. And we'll make money from everybody here. And we'll also destroy the culture while we're at it. Because that's going to stop making profit in a minute here soon. We're moving into a world where these AI tools, I'm hoping that this is what the future is, but we're moving into a reality where these AI tools that are being made are at a point where we might not need the opportunity provider anymore in the traditional sense, and it'll simply be the ambition of the value producer and their ability to meet the needs of the community they're serving with these AI tools and with other human beings who are looking for freelance work or like specialized skills to appreciate a collective. That is the new model. That is the new model of business. That is the new model of cultivating community. That is the new model of meeting needs. But how does it start though? It starts with these people who produce value. Creative artists, starts with you essential workers, starts with you 9-to-5 people. Starts with you community service workers. Recognizing and knowing the value within yourself first and understanding that the value that you can provide that you are not being acknowledged for in your current position in life is not allowing you to serve your community and to save yourself to the ability that you need to. Because if you could do that, then you wouldn't feel enslaved to your circumstances. You would feel responsible for your circumstances, and you would know that the power to change them always exists within your hands. Final little quote I'll leave you here with, because this is like the only thing I remember my mom ever telling me. And there's a girl I used to date who had a tattoo, which I figured out, I guess means this. I should have asked her what it meant, honestly. So bad, bruh. Wherever there's a will, there's a way. As long as you understand that, you're going to be okay. I didn't even have intention of that rhyming, but wherever there's a will, there's a way. The reason why I keep on just pounding on you needing to know and to accept yourself, because we're moving into a society where most people, if not, really most people don't have a relationship with themselves and will be acting animalistically in relation to their lack of self-acceptance and relationship with self. And if you are to prepare yourself to protect yourself from those circumstances, it's going to come with knowing your worth. It's going to come with knowing when people are giving you bad deals. It's going to come with knowing when people are trying to devalue you or underestimate you or play you. It's going to come with recognizing that most people might not respect you for how much you value yourself just because they don't. And being cool with that. Because it's not your problem. Where there's a will, there's a way. I'm telling you, always find a means of creating that, of connecting to yourself, because I'm telling you, that's where your willpower comes from. And in being able to do that, bro, a way will always find you. Always find you. Thank you so much for coming to class today. I appreciate you. Hopefully you're still awake. I know sometimes I'll be just yapping, and you starting to want to fall asleep, want to touch. Playing. But this is a good video. I think this is a very good video, and I hope that there's a lot of lessons that you can pull out of this today as I go chop this up and then share it with you. But other than that, if you want to support the channel, like, comment, subscribe, share it with your homies, share it with somebody that you hate, bro, so they can share it with 10 more people. And share it with the baddest girl on your phone and tell her that I love her, just because I'm cool like that. And get you some merch from Cosmic Nomads. I'm going to be wearing, I'm starting to realize that the only thing I'm going to be wearing in these episodes is going to be Cosmic Nomad merch in the very near future here. I'm still waiting on my merch to show up. Freaking, somebody tell Cosmic Nomad to get his shit together. No, I'm playing, but go ahead and copy some merch on there. And if you'd like to be a consistent contributor to the channel, go ahead and jump on the Patreon. We'll love you over there. I know the ADHD be kicking my booty sometimes, but I be trying to make sure that I could get you some early videos on there and just engage with the community a little bit. Doing the best I can. I'm living that solopreneur life, so hopefully we can add more people to the team. We can add more money to the bank account. We can add more experience to the wisdom. Until then, stay fly, stay dangerous, stay hot, stay rebellious. Continue to be everything that you know you can be. That's all you have, bro. Stay rocking. I'll catch you next episode.